the buccal. And so you have even more to compensate to make the papilla grow. So it's completely wrong to make a mid-crestal incision, but this is the mucogingival approach because we are elevating a flap that is exactly the same flap that we are elevating when we treat gingival recession. Once the buccal bone is reached, we use the periosteal elevator because the buccal bone can be over-countered with respect to the split thickness elevation of the papilla, and so it's very difficult to overcome this over-counter with the tip of the blade. There is too much risk for perforation, and so once you reach the buccal bone, you take the periosteal elevator, feel the presence of the over-counter of the buccal bone, and once this buccal bone is overcome, you stop your full thickness elevation. So the full thickness elevation is only done in order to get to the buccal bone and just a bit more apically, and so then you can go back with your split thickness elevation of the flap. So this is the full thickness up to reach the buccal bone. Once the buccal bone is reached, that's enough. Again, I'm looking for the buccal bone, and the same is done here at the level of the dentulous site, where I make the full thickness elevation of the flap only in the middle until I reach and I overcome the over-counter or the prominence of the buccal bone. Now we have to allow this flap to advance coronally in the edentulous site in order to adapt this flap to the temporal crown and being able to completely cover the connective tissue. In order to advance the flap, again we use the same approach. This is called deep incision. You see, this alveolar mucosa here is inserted in this area that makes like a shadow here, you see here. This is the area where the muscles of the alveolar mucosa insert onto the periosteum. And the objective of this that is called deep split thickness incision is to see the alveolar mucosa detaching from the periosteum, so as soon as you can, you keep your blade parallel to the external surface and make the superficial incision that remove the whole muscles from the alveolar mucosa and allow the advancement of the flap. So now, just the tip of the blade is used to see the alveolar mucosa detaching from the level of the periosteum. Now you see that the alveolar mucosa is detached because once you apply your blade to the inner aspect of the alveolar mucosa, you see now the blade is not parallel to the bone anymore, like in the deep, but is parallel to the alveolar mucosa. But 5 seconds before, it was not possible to place the blade parallel to the alveolar mucosa because the alveolar mucosa was perpendicular to the bone. So from here to here, it means that you were able to detach the alveolar mucosa from the periosteum, and this is done with a very, very limited, minimal invasive deep incision, while the superficial incision is much more extended until the flap advances at the level of the dentulous site. Now, what we have to do is to minimize the punch we make in the middle, where we will use our burrs, we will place our implant, and not to traumatize at all the mesial and distal soft tissue to this punch, where we will remove full thickness the soft tissue to place the implant, because this area that we will leave mesial and distal to the implant will be the area of the peri-implant papilla. So what we use clinically, we use the hole of the surgical stand. We take a narrow blade, we keep the blade in contact to the walls, and we sign the punch in order to minimize the amount of tissue that I will remove in the middle, which maximize the tissue that I leave mesial and distal for the future papilla. So I just make the sign, the circle, and once the circle is completed, keeping the blade in contact to these metallic walls of the surgical stand, I can complete the removal of the punch full thickness up to the bone, but you see that I leave almost untouched the whole tissue, mesial and distal, that has to be increased in thickness and in height by adding the connective tissue graft. Now it starts the atraumatic implant placement, which is completely guided. I have to tell you that the Prima system provides us many different steps for preparing the site, which means minimizing the trauma to the bone and to the adjacent soft tissue, so you don't use only 1, 2, 3 burrs like it is suggested in other systems, and so you progressively increase first the length and then progressively the diameter, and this will really minimize the trauma to the bone and to the tissue. Fully guided means that it's much better also that the implant is guided, so we are absolutely sure to place the implant where it was planned. And the proof of thumb is when you try the temporary crown, that is already very precise with respect to the implant placement. I like to feel in my hands the last 2 millimeters, so I know that there is primary stability enough for the immediate temporization. The all incision that we did at the level of the adjacent teeth are paramarginal and convergent to the edentulous side. So what is remaining corner to my split thickness papilla elevation is the area of the anatomic papilla that is desepithelialized with the blade first, and then with the use of the microsurgical scissors in order to create a connective tissue bed for the advancement of the papilla in a more corner position. Now we apply the, how do you call it, T-base? How do you call this? I don't know. The transfer for the temporization. We make in a few minutes the rebasement of the temporary crown. You will see how this temporary crown, since it was built on the same impression that was used for creating the surgical stand, so you really can rebase this temporary crown in a few seconds, because we need a surface, convex surface, onto which we can advance our coronal advanced flap in order to completely cover the connective tissue. So this is the precision. You see that there is almost no excess of resins between the temporary crown and the T-base, I think. So it's, I think it's called T-base.